Welcome back, friend. So where you came from is the origins of human design. That was just a quick introduction to the human design system, and I do have to apologize for the audio quality on that. I didn't realize that my headset wasn't working properly. Alright, so let's go into the introduction to the centers. So as I had indicated in the last module, the body graph itself has 9 centers, and each one of these centers actually is a different kind of center. So basically when we look at these centers, we can look at them as hubs of information. They are filtering and flowing information in and out of them and providing that information field with a nuance for your body and your mind to decode and decipher. And what we're really going to hit home on is the undefined centers as I break this down for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you this introduction, and then each one of the modules preceding will go through the different kinds of centers. So the centers can actually be the problem, but they can also be the solution. And why is that? Because the centers can either be defined, colored in. Some people have all 9 of them colored in. Some people don't have any colored in. And the colored in aspect basically gives a fixedness, a nuance of, kind of like furniture. It's always there, it's always consistent, it's always reliable. Now, if the center is undefined or white, can be totally white or just undefined. This is actually the juiciness of life, because these centers actually provide us with a place for us to interact with life. So any of the openness in your chart, including the channels, but right now we are just focusing in on the gates. We're not focusing in on the centers. We're not going to focus in on the gates or the channels. We're just going to focus in on the centers. So the centers is actually how you attract life to you. Reason being, this is how you bring in your relationships, your careers, your information, resources, money, whatever it might be that it is attracted to you, that's where it has the opportunity to get in. Now, what actually happens when the conditioned mind is making decisions, we never want the conditioned mind to make decisions. We always want the body to make decisions, and we're going to hit home on that more so when we get into type, strategy, and authority. So when it's undefined or open, what can take place if the conditioned mind is running the show, is making decisions, is doing whatever it needs to do, what you'll notice is it will bring it in, it will amplify whatever it is, it will amplify whatever it is, it will distort it, there'll be an overreaction, because what happens is the mind, the conditioned mind, wants to take hold. And at the base of our minds, we're actually reactionary beings. We are in this reaction mode if the mind is running the show. And then what happens is there's this distortion or misunderstanding, and really what it looks like is, say you had your broadcasting on the radio, and the people tuning into your broadcast, if the dial is off by just 1 point of a hertz, that broadcast is very staticky. And when we, including myself, all of us on this planet, when we are amplifying anything through the openness and distorting it in the field and broadcasting that distortion, it's very, very noisy. And then there's a lot of misunderstanding. Like, this is what our world looks like. For just a small example, take a look at what our politics looks like. It's very unfortunate, but it looks worse than a elementary school playground. And that is all not self. That's all, the not self conditioned mind trying to push its agenda. Because really that's what the not self does. So the undefined centers, this is where your not self habits reside. This is where the mind interprets the conditioning, the undefined centers. Your openness is the home for the not self. We all have an addiction to homogenization. What happens in that not self is there's an agenda that happens, and that agenda wants to put us all into a box. You receive conditioning through family, people, transits, money, food, all kinds of stuff. And this is where your deepest battle is going to play out. And of course, when you live according to your strategy and authority, you can actually recognize the information that is flowing through those undefined and open centers. Now, I will tell you that after 8 years, there is still a conditioned mind residing within. It's going to happen. Rob was in it for 30 years, and he's like, that conditioned mind never stops talking. But what you want to understand is how these not self decisions can affect decision making, and how you can experience this in your life. So you can get a deeper nuance as to what is happening in those open centers. Now, a lot of people talk about deconditioning. Here's my take on it. I want you to go forward as of today. I don't want you to go back and rehash and relive anything that happened in the past. Yes, you can reflect so that as you're doing your application pieces after every one of these modules, when you're applying this to your life and looking at this, I want you to be able to witness it, reflect, see what was taking place, which is all perfect, good, awesome, okay? But I don't want you to rehash, go back there, relive it, and live in that homogenization, because it isn't healthy. The mind lives in the past, present, and the future. And for the most part, I want you to get as close to the present as possible so that you can actually witness your life happening through you. So the not self is, it's living out a life that is based on what we are pulled towards, attracted to, and conditioned by, rather than living out what is the imprint. Now, what I call the imprint is, it's like your God code. This is the small piece of the puzzle, the little tiny note in the orchestra, the piece of the frequency that you were asked to be endowed with. And you got to, walk this earth with this frequency. So this imprint is your frequency, your God code frequency. And when we are not allowing for that imprint, meaning anything that is defined in the body graph, when this imprint isn't operating in a healthy way, and we're constantly getting in the way of it, then that imprint is creating distortion, because the not self is winning. And it's not about winning and losing. It's not probably the best languaging to use, but it's about seeing that we don't want to make decisions through that conditioned mind. So we are most deeply conditioned by our openness because we're chasing after what we cannot be. We can never feel complete. We can never feel whole. We can never feel good about our love, feel good about and love ourselves. And we can never have respect for others because we don't see it. And why are we saying see? Now, it's about perception. When the conditioned mind is not making decisions, when the physical body is interacting correctly. So the electromagnetic field of the heart, which I, attest to the entire body, is already 6 seconds into the future, and then the mind is catching up. That's why the mind is reactionary, because it's always on catch-up mode. And when we're making decisions through that wisdom of that electromagnetic body, that wisdom then allows us to get out of our own way, to clear the cluttered mind. Because the decision's already made, now the mind gets to witness the experience. And that's really what we came here for. We get very caught up in feeling like this is a personal experience, and really it's not a personal experience. I'm sorry to say that. Nothing's personal here. You are designed to be the witness, the observer, and to watch how precious this quantum mechanics and this quantum field is designed to bring us the experiences that we are designed, we are imprinted for. So the whole point of this for me is to not leave you in the not self. It's for you to be able to see those shadows, recognize those distractions. So the problem is living out the not self and letting that shadow dominate the life, work, and relationships. So there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with the world, but there's always solutions to everything, and you will learn this so deeply in your self-mastery, this self-mastery movement, because the solutions that are for you to present are right built into your body graph. So the solution is for you to recognize these are areas that are juicy. They're the juicy part of your life. This is where we are designed to attract relationships, money, resources, information, co-workers, jobs. This is what happens in the not self. And it is a beautiful thing. So when we can recognize that every experience in our life happened, we got to bring a different level of nuance. And don't get me wrong, like, I'm not oblivious to the fact that there's lots of inhumane things that happen on this planet. And that isn't something that I condone in any way, shape, or form. However, it is today, and it is this moment while you're listening to my voice, and I want you to move from this place. No matter what has taken place, you got here. So let's build a life that is so beautiful, that is so full of self-mastery, that all of those shadows and distractions become a blessing. Okay? So the deconditioning process for me is not about going and rehashing. It's about reflecting, seeing how that took place in the life, recognizing those moments where you attracted this or that into the life, and whether they be good experiences, bad experiences, challenging or not, just recognizing them and now moving forward with a clear mind and clear seeing. So where do the shadows show up? Of course they show up in our daily life because they want to make decisions from that distracted, noisy field, okay? The conditioned mind is very tricky, and it has an agenda. It has an agenda. When we're living through the imprint, the God code, the life self-mastery, there is no agenda. Because we get to observe the quantum field collapse right in front of us, create what it is that we are designed to recognize, and then move from there. So they show up in our habits or our practice, right? Habits become a practice, and we practice them over and over and over. I have some bad habits myself. One of them being, getting up, and I always go check my cows in the morning, and then I sit on the couch and I drink coffee, and I spend time with a few YouTube channels that I gain wisdom from. But that's a habit, right? That's a habit. I could change that habit at any time, and sometimes I get very discouraged because all of a sudden an hour or two has gone by, and it's like, what am I doing? So the habits become practice, or the practice becomes a healthy habit. And that can create bad health, less than fulfilling relationships due to distorted distraction, blaming others for your downfalls, on and on and on. Procrastination, all of those kind of things. So at work, this is where you can get into trouble and, be written up in those negative performance evaluations. And really, this is like feeling like you're getting sucked into this never-ending cycle of this distortion field, of this agenda. and it doesn't feel very good. You know it doesn't feel very good. You're exhausted, or you're mentally fatigued, or emotionally you just, can't keep it together. These are all signs that there is some habits and some practices taking place, that the conditioned mind is running the show and not the imprint. So where can we get taken off track? So I want you to just see this, and then we're going to get into each one of these centers deeper, at a deeper level, as we move through the modules. So inspiration, we can lose focus here, feel mentally scattered. So this could be a place where you might want to make lists so that you can remember what you need to focus on. So here's a little hint and tip that I do. But I'm a manifesting generator, or an express builder in the career or business language. I'm here to respond. So when I respond to something, I write it in my calendar. And I get things done. But if there's nothing to respond to, I can get very, very, I can lose focus very easily and be mentally all over the place. Conceptualization, mentally defensive, trying too hard to be certain. It's okay to admit when you're wrong and you don't know, and it's okay to ask others for input. I seek answers all the time, and mostly what I do is I meditate. I ask the question, and then it's either in meditation that I get the answer, could be when I'm doing the dishes, can be when I'm walking out to my cows. A lot of times it's when I'm driving, and I get the answers, so that I don't have to be mentally defensive and try to be certain, because that's not healthy for me. Communication and action, trying to be a star, and talking way too much and feeling like you have to talk all the time. So, it's important here to talk less and listen more, and wait for the right timing to speak, to let others have the stage. The energy resource, or the sacral center, this is being overzealous, taking on too much. So this is about working smarter and not longer. Delegate, listen to your body's need for rest. So now I'm really talking about, the openness that can happen, right? So now if we look at willpower, this is where we're overcompensating and overcommitting, difficulty in the follow-through. So check in with your decision-making strategy and before you're making any kind of promises, and relax. You have nothing to prove. The survival instincts, geez, that really came off very distorted here. Sorry about that. Blurry. So the survival instincts, there's this lack of flexibility and fearful for survival. So it's okay to, loosen up, let a few things go. And, it's okay to adapt and learn how to adapt to things when the spleen is open and undefined. Identity and direction, there can be some role confusion, lack of direction, endless searching. So trust that your strategy and authority is going to guide you correctly when the correct decision making is taking place. And again, all of this languaging we are going to get into deeper and deeper and deeper as we walk through self-mastery movement. So the emotional intelligence, this is about, being touchy and nervous, avoiding confrontation and truth. This, This is a difficult one for a lot of the planet. 50% are defined, 50% are not defined. And the touchiness and the nervousness across our planet, and the avoidance of confrontation, the avoidance of truth, is so deep within our society. And right now, what's happening in the transits, I am recording this in 2020, is the entire program, the transiting program, is asking us to drop into our own inner truth. So it's okay to just You know, cool down, let your emotions come to a place of clarity. You know, don't get caught up in all the emotions of everyone else. And, you know, it's okay to relax into knowing that all of those emotions flowing through you, 50% of them, most of them are actually the conditioning fields. Drive and stamina, so too much in a hurry, succumbing to the outside pressure. So here it's about really slowing down, sit down, relax, delegate. It's okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you down a little bit of a deeper path, okay? I'm going to take you into some nuances of this. I'm dropping you into this a little early, okay? But I want you to see that there's layers and layers and layers of information. So you can write down this information and bring it forward for yourself. Because I think it's important for us to be able to see the deeper levels and the nuances. So first I want to introduce you to this. The kinds of centers. We have two pressure centers. There's the head center and the root center. So it's like we're living in this pressure sandwich because there's pressure from the adrenal glands and the body, and this fuel that happens down here to, you know, move ourselves into manifestation and action. And then there's also a pressure up here mentally for us to express our experiences. So there are two different pressures here. Now they can really, really, really distort the field. But I want you to understand that we are living in a pressure center. In order for communication, action, and manifestation to happen, the correct fuel and pressure have to be present in the life. Now, again, I don't want you to get caught up in I have or I don't have these, because we're going to get into that more in the next modules. There's 4 motor centers. So if you notice, the root center is a pressure center and it's a motor center. Then we have 3 awareness centers. Those 3 awareness centers, the spleen, the solar plex, and the ajna, if you notice, the solar plex is also a motor. So it's important to watch how some of these are, you know, a dual action. And then we have the 1 manifestation center, and then we have our identity center. Now I wanted you to just see the different kinds of centers before I drop you into this deeper nuance. Okay, so the awareness centers. The awareness centers are built into the human design system, and they actually, their surface level provides us with fear. Okay, fear, anxiety, and nervousness. Because always on the other side of these 2 or 3 words, fear, anxiety, and nervousness, is awareness. There's an awareness. So each one of these brings the nuance of I see. Okay? This is where fears can be activated. This is where the awareness functions shape how the mind sees or experiences the world. I see. You know, we are living in very amazing times at this moment, and the fears, anxiety, and nervousness that are happening on this planet are palpable. And we are seeing the fears, we are seeing the anxiety, we're seeing the nervousness. So we know that something's wrong with the world. And we see what happened in the past, and that we need to make sure that it never happens again. We see, you know, the chaos in the world, and I need to make sure that I can figure it out logically. I see what happens when someone is rejected, and I have to do what I can not to be rejected. So there's lots of things that we're seeing through this awareness, okay? Do we also feel these? Yeah, we feel them, but mostly we see them in the world. These 4 centers are the personal functions that shape how the mind views, feels, and sees yourself personally. So this feels more personal. This is the I am. This is what activates personal negative self-talk, where individuals have a tendency to think there is something wrong with them. These are areas where they will beat themselves up and make themselves wrong. So the willpower. I am not enough. Identity and direction. I'm lost. I don't know my own direction. I don't know who I am. The inspiration. I am confused. I don't know. I am in doubt. The energy resource, I am not keeping up, I don't have the energy. So I want you to be able to see these different nuances, understand where the I see and the I am. Now again, this is a deeper level. This can take you into way down into the self-mastery, but I want you to see it now, and maybe make a few notes on your chart so that you can recognize how this is filtered through your body graph. And then we have the communication and action and the drive and stamina, and they can actually function at either or both. So if you have, more awareness functions undefined, then these will work as I am. But if you have more of the personal functions undefined, this will work as I see. So for me, it's going to work as an I am, because I have all 3 of the awareness functions that are undefined in my body graph. And then I only have 2 of the I am undefined, or the I see undefined. So, okay, what did I just say? The I am. So, I have all 3 of these undefined, the I see. I only have 1, 2 of the I ams undefined. So because I have more awareness centers, I'm going to recognize any of the not self, but I have both of these defined as I am. So the communication and action would be I see that communication and action is not happening, or I am not able to get attention and communicate and manifest. Drive and stamina, I see the pressure and stress, or I am pressured and stressed. So again, this might be as clear as mud to you. We will go over this deeper layers, where we start getting into the differentiation information and really diving deep into your charts. There is a hierarchy to the true, to the not self. I want you to understand that as well. So if you have any bridging gates or channels, so if on your body graph it says split definition, triple split definition, or quad split definition, the gates or channels that are going to hook up your islands of energy, which again we're going to get into in one of the modules. That's going to be your most place of conditioning, or your most place where you can make a lot of money, attract a lot of good things into your life, attract a lot of good resources, a lot of good people. Or they can be total conditioning spots where the conditioning field is so great that it's so overpowering. So the hierarchy here, so after the bridging gates, it's going to be the heart or the ego, the willpower, where we overcompensate. Then it'll be the solar plex, emotional intelligence, where we're touchy, nervous, and defensive. Then we drop down to the G center, identity and direction, which is the role confusion. Then the splenic center, instinctive knowing, unable to let go, and very inflexible. The ajna and conceptualization, which is very mentally defensive. The head center, or inspiration, which is about losing focus. The root, the drive and stamina. There is too much in a hurry here all the time. I see that a lot. And then sacral center, we have the energy resource, the overzealous, the too much enthusiasm or being too eager, And then the throat center, communication and action, and trying to be a star and getting attention. So there, like that hierarchy provides you with a level of understanding on how those hierarchies will play out in your chart. So you can number them if you want. You can number them on your body graph chart and say, you know, so say you had the ego center undefined, and then you had the splenic center undefined, and then say you had the head center undefined. You can number them and then recognize when you're interacting with people, watch how, you know, there's this hierarchy to how the agenda or the conditioned mind of the not self tries to distort the field. And I'm not saying that you need to, you know, I don't want you to memorize this and get so caught up in the information. I just want you to witness it and recognize it. Play around with it. Don't get too serious about this. Life is supposed to be fun. Human design is very heady, meaning you can get in your head a lot and try to figure out all this stuff. It's okay. You can't get nothing wrong, and there's always time in life to come to this place of witnessing and recognizing. So, of course, whoops, where did I just go here? Sorry about that. The not self-conditioning forces, you know, this is our openness. It's our genes. It's people, food, sleeping with one another, the transits, and the seven center strategic mind. All of this can be conditioning forces, but it's also a massive place for potential. Something that I want to talk about these genes. So when I look at the human design body graph and I listen to people like Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden, what I can recognize is that the definition in the body graph is really the 2% of our DNA that is activated. There's like 98% of our DNA is not activated, and scientists are so caught up in all of this. Now, how I see it is that the definition provides us really with our genes, and the openness is really where the junk DNA gets to play out. And what really fascinates me the most is really comprehending this, is that there is nothing outside of you. This human design body graph has everything. You are the microcosm inside the macrocosm. And then your physical body is the macrocosm for the cells, the nuclei, the peptides, everything in your physical body. When we can see this infinite touring of all of this information, we can grasp that there is nothing outside of us. All of the technology, including the computer that you and I are using to do this with, the internet, Wi-Fi, vehicles, books, everything that we have on our planet was the technology that was actually inside of our physical bodies. I know that seems very, very way out there, but when we can look and see how precious and beautiful we really are, then we can understand our uniqueness and understand exactly how important we are to the universe. So what I really, really, really want to hit home is this true self. You know, when I go over the centers, I'm mostly focusing on the not self, okay? So in the next few modules, I'm going to mostly be focusing on the not self. Before we get into the strengths and channels and the traits and gates, because having this information is important to really grasp the not self so you can see how it's playing the game so that you can drop into your true self. So when we're operating through strategy and authority, our openness becomes the source of our wisdom. And we use our minds to watch the way our not-self works, giving us a huge step forward in the development of our consciousness and self-love. And we can fulfill our purpose because our energy is not pulled away by trying to be what we're not. Everybody's always asking, like, how do I find my purpose? You are living your purpose when the distracted mind is not running the show. Oh my goodness, that just keeps going like that. Why? Sorry about that. Definition. I want to show you this just so that you have a grasp of it. I'm guessing a lot of you already know this, but we have a completely open center here. Like for myself, I have 3 of those in my body graph. We have dormant gates hanging off an undefined center. We have active gates hanging off a defined center. Okay? And then we have a defined channel that has 2 defined centers. Another defined channel, defined center. So when you're looking at your body graph, red, white, or red or black, know that they're hanging there. They're either going to be dormant on the undefined centers. They're going to be active on the defined centers, and there's going to be, sometimes there's channels there. If you are a reflector or an evaluator, there's not going to be any channels. And everything that you have is going to be dormant potential. But what I want you to really understand is this. Again, what we don't have, we're attracting in, so that those dormant gates, those dormant potentials, can bring a nuance into our lives. And that we can provide the solution to those people that are interacting with us. Something, again, we're going to get deeper and deeper into. So what I'm going to leave you with now at the end of this module is this. This is how the 9 centers, this is what they're called, and this is how they function. So the head center functions as inspiration. The ajna functions as conceptualization. The G center functions as identity and direction. The throat center functions as communication and action. The heart center functions as willpower. The splenic center functions as instinctive knowing. The sacral center functions as energy resource. The root center functions as drive and stamina. And the solar plex functions as emotional intelligence. Okay. Now, what I'd like to do is invite you to join me in each one of the next coming up modules where we pull out the different types of centers is what I want to chat about. And so each one of the modules, we're going to have 2 pressure centers in one module. We're going to have the motor centers in one module, awareness centers in a module, manifestation in a module, and identity and the identity in a module. What I want to give you the caveat first is to understand that the solar plex is going to stay here in the awareness. The root is going to stay here in the pressure. So I'm not going to be covering those 2 twice, just so that you understand that. All right, I will see you in the next modules.